In 1947, a crash in the New Mexico desert triggered one of the most persistent controversies in modern history. But beyond the debris, the bodies, and the classified reports, there is one story that stands apart. A story not about wreckage, but about communication. A dialogue between a military nurse and a being who claimed to understand the operating system of reality. This is the case of Matilda O'Donnell MacElroy and the document known as the Alien Interview. Not as science fiction, but as a potential blueprint of an older, hidden cosmology. According to the account published in 2007, Matilda O'Donnell MacElroy served as a nurse for the US Army Air Forces. Her role was routine, administrative, supportive, unremarkable. Until Roswell. The story claims she was assigned to observe a surviving occupant from a craft recovered in the desert. Not an animal, not a pilot, but a non-biological avatar controlled by a disembodied intelligence. The being identified itself as Elle. What followed, if true, is one of the most extraordinary conversations ever recorded. Unlike many UFO accounts, Matilda's testimony is unusually detailed. Not in emotional language, but in structure, Elle described the universe not as a random expanse, but as an organized system, a hierarchy, a network, a series of controlled domains. And according to this testimony, Earth is not a young world waiting for discovery. It is a designated containment zone, a prison, the system that governs human reincarnation. Often portrayed in spiritual texts as natural or divine, is reframed as a technological mechanism designed to wipe memory between lifetimes. A forced amnesia, a reset cycle, a closed loop. To Elle, this was not myth, it was protocol. Elle described a civilization known as the Old Empire, a regime predating human history by millions, perhaps billions of years. Its purpose was simple: control through forgetfulness. According to the interview, the souls incarnating on Earth, referred to as Ispis, or immortal spiritual beings, are prisoners of a cosmic conflict, not physically restrained, but neurologically suppressed. Their memories, identities, and histories neutralized. In this interpretation, Earth is not a classroom, not a proving ground, not an experiment. It is a quarantine for entities deemed unmanageable, sealed inside biological avatars, and prevented from accessing their original abilities. This concept has parallels in Gnostic texts, Tibetan reincarnation barriers, and numerous ancient warnings about false lights and soul traps. But in Matilda's narrative, it takes on a structured, almost computational clarity. One of the most controversial aspects of the interview is the description of the light at death. Elle claims this light is not transcendent or divine. It is the interface of a memory erasure system, a technological mechanism designed to reinitialize consciousness BC4 reinsertion into a new biological host. In other words, a soul reset protocol. This stands in sharp contrast to traditional religious interpretations, yet it mirrors patterns reported across thousands of near-death experiences. The tunnel, the light, the review, the overwhelming sense of being guided back. Could these be engineered processes, not spiritual journeys? Matilda seemed to believe so. Perhaps the most puzzling question is, why an extraterrestrial intelligence would communicate this information to a single nurse. But many researchers point to the same possibility. Elle was not trying to inform a government. She was trying to inform an individual who had no power to weaponize the knowledge and every reason to protect it. Matilda kept her notes hidden for 60 years. She requested their release only after her passing, a decision that suggests either sincere belief or careful orchestration. From an academic standpoint, the alien interview is unverified. There are no military records confirming Matilda's identity, no secondary witnesses, no official corroboration. Yet the narrative persists. Why? Because the structure of the story aligns with multiple independent traditions, ancient, religious, metaphysical, and modern. Because the description of consciousness as non-local is consistent with emerging theories in physics and neurology. And because the framework of Earth as a controlled environment is echoed in mythologies spanning thousands of years. Whether fiction, fraud, or revelation, the interview forces us to confront a possibility rarely addressed in mainstream discourse. What if human limitations are not natural, but engineered? Matilda O'Donnell MacElroy remains a mystery, a voice from the margins of history claiming access to a conversation that should not have been possible. If her account is true, then Earth is not what it appears to be. Humanity is not what it has been told, and consciousness itself is older, larger, and more constrained than our current scientific models allow. If it is false, then it stands as one of the most elaborate mythologies generated in the modern era. Either way, the questions it raises are worth asking, because in every culture, every religion, every ancient whisper, there is a recurring theme. Something is limiting humanity. Something is managing the cycle. Something is hiding the truth. And perhaps this interview was never meant to provide answers, only to remind us that the search is far from over.